Hello, everyone. It's Miles. Welcome back to the Root of All Podcasts.
Welcome.
I'm Miles, like I just said.
And I'm Devin. That went great. We're the best at this.
We're back here to review some podcasts for you guys, so you can decide what other podcasts to listen to besides this one, obviously.
Yeah.
We're going to give you some in-depth reviews on podcasts, as well as some very well calculated information on who they would be good for based on our patent pending algorithm.
Definitely. That's what we do on this podcast that we're recording right now.
Yeah, there's a chill in the air. Do you feel it? Brr.
Brr.
Brr. I got a window open, the cool air's flowing in, and I got a sweater on. So it's fall. Fall has fallen.
Well, technically fall starts the day after my birthday, which is Monday. Monday is the first day of fall, but it's close enough.
It feels like fall, and this weekend isn't going to feel like fall, so...
Also, this podcast might not get up until Monday anyway, so it might be fall when you're listening to this.
Maybe it's fall.
There's a good chance.
It's Schrodinger's fall. Maybe it's fall. Maybe you found this podcast years later, and it's not fall at all for you. But seeing as it's fall, we thought we would do something in the season.
Most definitely.
For our topic.
Also, a little lighter topic this week. I thought
lighter than ancient mythology having to do with bad people. So we went with something definitely lighter. We went with pumpkin spice.
Pumpkin spice.
That's what it's really the season for. Screw sweaters. Screw pumpkin pie, except for the fact that you use the spices from pumpkin spice in it. Screw apple picking. I hate apple picking now. I can't think of anything else for the fall. The leaves.
Corn.
Who cares about leaves?
Who wants corn?
Corn sucks. The only good thing is pumpkin spice.
I think pumpkin spice is in the pumpkin pie. I don't think we can hate on pumpkin pie. That's kind of the whole thing.
You're probably right. Basically, they could have named it a pumpkin pie latte, and people would have been like, "Yep, still good. This is still it." Like my coffee shop that I'm gonna open, whenever the fall comes, maybe is gonna have pumpkin pie lattes, and that's how we're gonna get around that copyright.
That's a good trick.
Yep, it's gonna be PPLs instead of PSLs. I love those PPLs.
Yep, that's a thing you'll get people to say out loud.
So you're gonna go first.
Yes.
I'm curious about what you found, because I found an interesting little podcast that has a bit more to do with the application of pumpkin spice in particular. But I want to hear what you have for us. What podcast did you listen to?
So I had a lot of choices this week. There's pumpkin as a flavor is everywhere, and pumpkin as a podcast topic is also everywhere.
Everywhere.
So I could have gone with some about pumpkin beer. I could have gone with some about just like different food, like pumpkin products. I went with an episode of Savor podcast, which was formerly Food Stuff. They're of the Stuff Media Network that do, like, I believe they do like How Stuff Works and stuff like that. They have a whole bunch of podcasts. Neat. But these two hosts, which are Annie Reese and Lauren Vogelbaum, whose names I probably just said wrong, okay. Are the hosts. So two hosts, which is great, of this food podcast. They discuss, Savor digs into how people live and how they eat and why. They talk about like history and culture and different things involving food. And this particular episode was called Pumpkin, Jack of All Foods.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
They released it in September 27th, 2017. So it's been had a couple of years to age and
age nicely.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like the conversation they have with each other. They talk about how like the history of pumpkin as a food. It's kind of come and gone. It's kind of cyclical. It's pumpkin is originally from North America. It's originally from Mexico and was brought to the rest of the world from there.
Sure.
Pumpkin is the same species as zucchini.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I guess. Is zucchini a gourd? I would have assumed gourd or squash.
I honestly don't know much about it. I just thought it was really interesting that zucchini and pumpkins are the same species. That seems
so
weird to me. Yeah.
Yeah, huh. That's good. That's good information to have. I don't know. Could you make? I mean, you can make pumpkin bread like zucchini bread, huh?
That's true. I mean, you can make almost anything into a bread.
What about zucchini pie instead of pumpkin pie? Is that anything?
I don't know. Maybe.
Right.
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah, you're right. When you write, you write, and you write.
All right, make one. All right.
I'll be back. I'll be back in however long it takes to make a zucchini pie.
So they talk about some of the like historical uses of pumpkins as far as like different food stuffs, and it's not only food stuffs either. It was used in early beers, which are not not necessarily like a beer like you would think of now, but still
like liquid alcoholic bread,
sort
of thing. Right. I mean, now we've come back. We've come back to using pumpkin in our beers.
Well, some of them, a lot like pumpkin spice latte, a lot of pumpkin beers now are like a pumpkin spice beer, and they don't always have pumpkin in them.
Yeah, there's this pumpkin cider that Doc's makes that is excellent, and I'm sure there's no pumpkin in that sucker.
The thing with the pumpkin beers now, with the old time pumpkin beers is that it was literally the main ingredient for the beer was like fermented pumpkin.
Sweet.
So that's kind of cool. They also would use it as a crust for like apple type pies. They would
weird.
Maybe not crust isn't the right word, but they would like hollow out the pumpkin and put other pie ingredients into the pumpkin shell and bake that. Maybe they were using it more like a pie tin.
Yeah,
but still, that's weird that the first pumpkin pies were not even pumpkin.
Yeah, there's an anime, a food anime. I think it might just be called Food Wars, but I could be wrong. And this person made fried rice inside of a pineapple. And it's kind of like that, but pie and pumpkins instead of fried rice and pineapple.
So it's food in another food is the way that it's like that.
Yeah.
They as far as non-food historical uses, they would apparently use them as haircut templates.
That makes sense.
Yeah, of course. What else are you gonna do with a big old pumpkin?
I like that there's some historical some historical reasoning behind He-Man's haircut then. So that's good.
It could be a possibility. And also they would hollow out pumpkins and use them as containers for obviously not like super long term, but the hull of a pumpkin is, I mean, they hold up for a reasonable amount of time, so they would put stuff in there.
Nature's basket.
Well, more like nature's jar, because you have the lid thing, like, I
suppose. Yeah. And they do come in pretty little sizes too. I'm thinking big hefty pumpkins, but
those are new.
Like little ones.
Those are newer.
Well, how'd you use it as a haircut template if it wasn't at least the size of a head?
Well, some of them were at least head sized, but that was probably at that time that was probably the larger pumpkin. Right.
Whereas now, like the great pumpkin is like he's the size of a person. Maybe, I don't know. Did we ever find out how big the great pumpkin was? So the great pumpkin just never show up.
So the great pumpkin is not like a pumpkin. It's just like a pumpkin headed thing, and he never showed up.
He never showed up
because that would have made it for a happy ending. God forbid.
So that's obviously our first reference to an animated series. I have a second one now, and this is the most fall thing I've ever experienced. And if you haven't seen it yet, you need to at some point this fall. Have you seen Over the Garden Wall?
I have not.
It is a incredible little miniseries that's just bizarre and fascinating in like this fun in a really like surreal sort of way. Elijah Wood voices one of the main characters, and you know he's in all that weird stuff. I love everything he does recently because it's always weird. It's at one point they come across people who like all have pumpkin heads of varying sizes, and one of them's about like the size of a barn door. So they must be using modern pumpkins.
They must be. I'm glad that we've met our animated series quota for the podcast. That's important.
Yeah. All right. So more pumpkin information.
So
give it to me.
So talking about the size of pumpkins, they go into talking about the largest pumpkin in the world so far that has been grown, which is 2,624 pounds, which is a big giant. That's like the size of a small car.
Yeah. Could you use it as a car the way that they used to use pumpkins as jars?
I don't know. So they actually talk about how there's been a scientific paper that says that a pumpkin grown in the right conditions could theoretically hold its own weight up to like 20,000 pounds.
Wow.
So maybe you could get car parts in there. Because that's the trick, is that not only does it have to hold a person, but it has to hold like a motor, unless you're going to Fred Flintstone that sucker.
Right. You're right.
You could do like a carriage, like Cinderella.
Yeah.
But like instead of it turning into a carriage, it just is a pumpkin that is also a carriage.
Yeah. And then if you're like taking the carriage somewhere to like a fall party and you end up bringing a pie, then it's kind of like a throwback to the olden days where they put pies in pumpkins. What I would love is if someone made like a giant pumpkin, and I'm talking like the size of a one-room schoolhouse, and then turned it into like a playground, like built like a slide into that sucker.
I feel like that could get real dangerous real quick as that started to decompose, though. It'd be structurally sound for like a day, and then all of a sudden it'd be not sound anymore.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the danger people ride all the time with things like ice skating on actual rivers and lakes, you know? People live dangerous like that all the time.
I suppose.
Do you have anything about... So we're learning a bunch about pumpkins and their uses. Do we have anything about the spice in particular?
So they talked about how in the early 2000s, in 2003, pumpkin kind of came back. So people got sick of pumpkins back when because they grow everywhere. People got sick of them, and then they pretty much only show up in America, at least, in pie form. And in 2003, a certain coffee company introduced pumpkin spice latte, and that kind of exploded pumpkin spice in a crazy way.
The PSL.
Oh, yeah. Since the introduction of the PSL, the industry of pumpkins has like doubled in size. It went from like a $74 million industry to like a $150 million industry.
Sure.
Just from pumpkin spice latte. I mean, obviously not only from pumpkin spice lattes, but like people realized that was a big thing, and so it just kind of people went crazy for it. And now pumpkin spice is everywhere.
On everything.
It is. Actually, that brings me to a little game I wanted to play.
Okay.
I have a webpage from foodnetwork.com where they have a list of every pumpkin spice food item they could find that's available for 2019.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is I am going to give you a name of a product that is either a name from that list or a made-up product. And you have to guess if it's a real product or a made-up product.
Okay. I'm in. I'm down.
All right. Let's go. Let's start with something easy. Starbucks pumpkin spice cookie straws.
It's got to be real. 100% got to be real.
For sure it is.
Yeah.
All right. Bailey's original Irish cream pumpkin spice.
Yes. 100%.
It definitely is.
Yeah, I think I've seen it. I wanted to get it, but I haven't yet. But I will.
Pumpkin pie flavored Kit Kats.
They do a lot of weird ones, but a lot of the weirder ones aren't in the country, and I feel like pumpkin spice might be more of a in-country thing. I'm gonna go no on that one. I'm gonna see no.
It's real.
That's fair. I should have went with yes. I should have stuck with my gut. But my instinct is just say yes to all of them because I assume they've made a pumpkin spice everything now. I don't know. Is there pumpkin spice? And you might not know this. Is there pumpkin spice Pocky yet?
That I don't know. I don't have that on the list here. I would be shocked. Pocky specifically, because it's like because there's only like a couple of brands that make that.
Yeah.
It's especially available here. And pumpkin spice is something that it's pretty much in the US and Canada, and that's it.
Sure.
And so that is what I think you might have found the one product that may not have a pumpkin spice option.
I think just you wait with the like upsurge in interest in Pocky in America, because like it was super niche back when we were young children, but like at this point, like a lot more people are into it. They may make a flavor to cater to us, and I feel like that flavor would be the pumpkin spice.
It could be. Maybe they'd make bacon Pocky first.
Oh gosh. See, if they did it where it was a chocolate Pocky with, or like maybe a maple glaze Pocky with bacon like bits, I'd be down. Sort of like what you do with a bacon donut, because bacon donuts, ooh.
Hannah the other morning made maple bacon scones. They're delicious.
That sounds incredible.
They are. How about Peanut Butter and Company pumpkin spice peanut butter?
It sounds fake, but it also sounds delicious, so I'm gonna say yes out of hope.
It is real.
Yes! Alright, I'll have to find it.
You will have to find it. Gary Poppins caramel pumpkin spice popcorn.
This gotta be real. I don't know who Gary is. This gotta be real.
That would be Mary Poppins' brother. He's a bit of a drinker, but he makes wicked popcorn.
Same, honestly. I've never related so much to a Poppins. Real or not real? Because I guess real.
Oh, it's definitely real. Also, we can be done with this quiz. I was only going to say real things because they make pumpkin spice everything. I was going to try to do this quiz like straight up and come up with imaginary things, but they make everything. Like it's not on the list here, but they make pumpkin spice bacon. They have pumpkin spice brownie brittle. They have pumpkin spice off-brand Pop-Tarts. They have everything. Pumpkin spice maple syrup. Pumpkin
spice toaster strudels, because that would be good.
I do not know. I do not see it on this list, but I would be surprised if they have not at some point made pumpkin spice toaster strudels.
And I'd mess up some toaster strudels right now. All right, so pumpkin spice is everywhere. What else do we know about this mythical spice? The spice.
The spice.
I've been reading Dune lately. And now in my head, every time they say the spice, I'm gonna think
it's
of
pumpkin spice.
It's pumpkin spice. They mention like it having a cinnamon flavor and scent to some people, and I'll be like, maybe cinnamon and nutmeg, maybe. Who knows? They mention having spice coffee. I'm like, yo, y'all drinking some PSLs? I need my spice coffee in order to have my prescient visions.
They're so basic.
They're so basic. They're on Dune. What's Dune's actual name?
I don't know.
It's not like Koros. No, it's I forget.
It's okay. Our dad will know. He can tweet at us about it. It's fine.
Add us, Dad, on Twitter. What's Dune's proper name? All right. Give me more info on that spice.
Well, so the thing is a lot of this episode is about pumpkins in general, and some of it's pumpkins and food, and some of it. They read some poems / limericks about pumpkins, which is a fun time. They talk about jack-o'-lanterns and where they came from, and the myth of the first jack-o'-lantern.
Okay, that sounds interesting, but I'm guessing we're gonna want to send people to actually listen to that podcast to get that info.
Yeah, they can talk about that on their podcast, which they already have done in the past.
Yeah.
They talk about largest pumpkin contests in general, just like they go give some tips to pumpkin growers on what you would need to do to grow a largest pumpkin.
Here's some tips for people out there. This is really good practical advice. If you're playing Stardew Valley, make sure you have at least 2 iridium level pumpkins to put in your stand at the Harvest Festival. That's definitely gonna help get you at least first or second place. You want 2 iridium level pumpkins, and then just different things in different categories. Also gold or iridium level. That's gonna be useful. So,
yeah, that's what they said on the podcast. That's what they said. That's weird.
I'm assuming they did a lot of, for when they made Stardew Valley, they did a lot of research into like actual fall festivals. So I'm guessing that info's pretty good, pretty universal.
One of the things they talk about that I thought was really cool is they talk about the world champion Punkin Chunkin contest.
Do you chuck it?
Yes. They wanted to rhyme it, so they messed up both pumpkin and chuckin.
Punkin Chunkin.
Yeah. It's where you hurl an 8 to 10 pound pumpkin. 8 to 10 pound, not ton. That would be too much pumpkin.
It's too much pumpkin for anyone.
That'd be a big pie. So you take up an 8 to 10 pound pumpkin and you hurl it as far as you can. The only rules that they mention are that you can't use any electricity or any combustion. So like a catapult or trebuchet or some kind of
oh hell yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. The record is over 5,500 feet.
What did they use?
I do not know.
Maybe slingshot?
Probably some sort of a catapult or something like that. Like engineers and stuff and people like do this as like a hobby. So it's some kind of crazy mechanism, I'm sure. But that would just be so much fun to hang out there during that competition.
Yeah, I'm about to search YouTube after this recording is over. I'm about to try and find some video footage of this. Of the Punkin Chunkin.
It's Punkin Chunkin. So they talk about on the podcast how they actually in 2017 they canceled it that year because in 2016 there was an injury and there was but it is back. I don't know if they had one in 18, but they do have one scheduled for this November. So
yes.
So just an update, because at the time that they reported their podcast, it was the Punkin Chunkin contest was uncertain in its future, but it is back and better than ever. I assume.
She back. We ready. Awesome. I'm jazzed about it. Cool. You got anything else for us for Savor from Savor?
That's pretty much what they talked. I mean, they talked about a lot more detail. They talked about a lot more stuff. But that's kind of the gist and the nuggets that I picked up and thought were cool.
Cool. I love it. I'm going to move on to me. I went to a podcast that I found through this, and it is called Serial Killers, but it's Serial, Cereal. I hope that's how you spell cereal. Serial Killers. And it's funny because this is the only episode of theirs I've listened to. It's not the only episode of a serial podcast I listened to. I will, every now and then I'll dip into a serial podcast called The Empty Bowl that I think is a delightful one. But Serial Killers was really just like nice, easy listen. I will let you know for this episode in particular, which was fairly recent. It came out on September 9th this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They did their pumpkin spice episode. And especially if you have an antagonistic relationship with pumpkin spice, listen to this podcast because so does one of its hosts. For the first like several minutes, it's just these two men, Scotty B and Andrew, having an argument about pumpkin spice and whether or not it's real. Because one of them's like, of course pumpkin spice is real. It's in the lattes. And the other one's like, yeah, but there isn't pumpkin in it. his argument, and I think this is a flawed argument, is that pumpkin doesn't taste like anything, and pumpkin spice is just the spices you put in pumpkin to make it taste like stuff. And you don't need pumpkin. Like, those spices on their own are the flavor. So calling it pumpkin spice is misleading. And I think he's wrong, and two, I use a seasoning called camp mix. You don't eat camp, but it's called camp mix. Like, that's just what it's called. It's not a bad seasoning mix because it's named after something that isn't one of the seasonings in the mix.
So here's the thing, brother. Here's the thing. There is a little bit of truth to pumpkin not having a ton of flavor on its own, or at least not that's utilized for pumpkin pie. Because, I've definitely had, like, sweet potato pies that are, or, like, other squash pies that are seasoned like a pumpkin pie. And you'll have people out that are like, this is better than pumpkin pie. And it basically tastes like pumpkin pie, and there's no pumpkin in it. Which kind of proves that the pumpkin is not the main part of the equation. Nutmeg and cinnamon are very powerful seasonings. I do think a pumpkin has a part in it, but, I mean, there's definitely some truth to the fact that a lot of the pumpkin spice things don't have pumpkin in them. But it's about, like, that's what you think of when you have that flavor in your mouth.
More accurately would be calling it pumpkin pie spice because the spices you put into pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
But, like, we don't need that extra syllable in there.
That's a whole extra word. That's 3 letters we just don't need in there. You know what you mean.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, if you hate on pumpkin spice just because it says pumpkin when it's not pumpkin, but you like cinnamon and nutmeg, like, you're just being a contrarian. So this is me coming for you, whichever of the two hosts was antagonistic about pumpkin spice. This is me coming for you and saying, listen, I've listened to one episode of I have to listen to like 50 episodes of a podcast before I can tell the hosts apart. So it's nothing personal, Scotty B and Andrew. But whichever one of you didn't like pumpkin spice just because it's not pumpkin, like, I think you're just being a contrarian. You're hating on it because it's loved, and I love it because it's hated on. That's not true at all. I just think it's very tasty.
It's a sneaky way to get pumpkin fly flavor. Love some pumpkin flies.
The only pumpkin flies I know of are at the Punkin Chunkin.
But you can get them to go, but they're 8 to 10 pounds. So
8 to 10 pounds. So it's this pumpkin fries. Pumpkin fries, is that something?
I bet I could Google it. I bet someone's made them. Here's the thing.
One thing I love more than creative foods. It's creative foods with wordplay.
Yeah. But pumpkin spice food is mainly an excuse to have pumpkin pie flavoring in my mouth without having to cook and eat a pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
That's the deal. I want pumpkin pie flavoring in my mouth without feeling guilty because I'm eating a whole pumpkin pie. That's what I want.
Which is exactly what these guys are talking about. Because once they get past the antagonistic banter, they review what their podcast name would suggest: some cereals. They whip out some pumpkin spice cereals, let you know what they think of them.
Which there are a lot of. I actually had that on the list, but I didn't want to.
I believe it. They only reached for 3. I'll let you know what they are. I'm not going to let you know what they thought of them, but I'll let you know what they are, and you can find their reviews on their podcast. Because this was a shorter podcast. This was 17 minutes, which I might take more than that to talk about it. So whatever. Who's the real podcaster? That's nothing. None of that. No, I don't want to start an antagonistic relationship with the man who hates pumpkin spice. They talked about pumpkin spice life. They talked about pumpkin spice Special K, and they talked about pumpkin spice frosted mini wheats. Mm. And of those, they all sound good to me. I won't talk to what they thought of them, but they all sound good to me except for the mini wheats. But that's because I don't like mini wheats.
Yeah, mini wheats are not good. Mini wheats are not good.
It's a bad baked berry.
Anyone who right now, I'm gonna call it. Anyone who says they like frosted mini wheats is a liar. They like the frosting. No one likes the mini wheats.
It's a great cereal for anyone who's ever thought, man, I'd love to eat a wicker basket right now. Just like,
but with a little frosting.
Put that wicker basket in my mouth. And they try it and they're like, not good. Maybe if I frost it, and they're like, I mean, technically better. Like, the one accomplishment Frosted Mini Wheats has is they made Mini Wheats slightly better, which it was not a hard goal.
That's not a high bar.
It's the only thing it accomplished. So like making the frosting orange and taste like nutmeg and cinnamon is not. It ain't gonna do it for me. I'm certain.
So I do want to say that anyone out there who does like Frosted Mini Wheats, I just want to say that this is just my opinion, but also you're wrong.
Also, you're wrong. Maybe a liar. Add us on Twitter about it. Okay.
All right. Now that we've been antagonistic about some pumpkin spice food,
it's a sickness. It'll infect you.
Yeah.
You talk. But yeah. So yeah, they honestly that was most of what there was to this podcast. Was they chat a little about pumpkin spice as a flavor.
Mm-hmm.
They review each of the cereals in a thing that seems to be like the star system, but instead of stars and half stars, they use bowls and spoons. So something could be rated like 2 bowls and a spoon, or this one's only a spoon, like that sort of thing. So they did that. They reviewed the cereals. They made some references to that old Life commercial where they're like, where Mikey's like, where they're talking about Mikey, is like, he likes it. So they have that audio clip. So if you've forgotten that commercial and want just a little refresher, listen into this 17-minute podcast, Serial Killers.
I had forgotten it, but now I remember because you just brought it up. Give it to Mikey. He doesn't like anything.
I love that. I love that so much. So if you could make any cereal... Well, first of all, we haven't talked about it. What are your thoughts on pumpkin spice? Do you like pumpkin spice?
So I do not like pumpkin spice lattes. Pumpkin spices and coffee, just for my palate, do not mix well together. I don't mind a pumpkin spice frappuccino, because that is literally just like a pumpkin spice shake at that point.
Yep.
So that's tasty. But the mix with coffee,
if it was a
I don't.
Pumpkin spice shake. If they just went ice cream instead of crushed ice. It would be better.
But you're right. But
yeah,
that was not at Starbucks.
Right.
So if I'm at Starbucks and also want a pumpkin spice flavored shake, then I would get a pumpkin spice frappuccino.
Right.
Because it's basically the same thing.
Same thing. What are your... if you could make one cereal, make a pumpkin spice flavor, what would it be? Are you big in the cereal game these days? Do you eat?
I haven't eaten cereal in a long time. I'm having to think back to a different time in my life in which I ate more cereal.
Right.
I'm trying to think of my favorite cereals that I also would enjoy. What do you have a cereal you would like to see pumpkin spice? And maybe I can think about it.
I feel like the one that would probably be easiest to do and would probably be pretty good is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Because it's already coated in cinnamon sugar swirls. Like, you just change up the seasoning mix that you're coating these little guys in. So I think that would be easiest to do. What I would be most curious to see and this would probably be an abomination, but I would love to see it, and I would definitely try it at least once, if, like, the Pebbles, like cocoa or Fruity Pebbles, came out with a pumpkin spice Pebbles. I would just be curious. I'd have to know.
I think frosted cereals kind of lend themselves more to a pumpkin spice flavoring, because that's easier to do. And I feel like the seasoning will come across better in like a frosting type implementation.
Sure.
But I'm maybe pumpkin spice redacted.
They're for kids. Is pumpkin spice for kids?
I think it is. The reason I said that is because pumpkin is a fruit.
Yeah, you're right.
Technically.
Now, do they add... I mean, so all the...
redacted.
They're different shapes. They taste the same, right?
I believe they do. I think it's all the same flavor.
Are they gonna... Is it gonna be like, oops, all pumpkins? Now suddenly all the fruit shapes are pumpkins, and it's pumpkin spice flavored? Or are you throwing in... Like, you could throw in, like, pumpkin spice flavored marshmallows into that...
redacted.
Or you could just add pumpkins and then make all of it pumpkin spice flavored. What are you thinking for implementation here?
I don't know.
We're a cereal podcast for the next several minutes, so.
I don't know. Also, the more I think about this, the less appetizing it sounds.
I mean, you're right.
No matter which, like, no matter what you want to do as far as, actually, I take it back. Let's go back in time, and I never said that. We'll edit that whole. We'll edit that out. I don't want that in the podcast
you're the editor,
anymore.
so you won't do that, and that's okay with me.
No, it's gone. Don't worry about it. Here's the thing. I just figured it out. Pumpkin spice Lucky Charms.
Okay. Pumpkins, 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 pumpkins and blue pumpkins. Pots of golden pumpkins and me red pumpkins.
It's just all pumpkins. No, I think they could just add like a pumpkin. They could just add a pumpkin flavor and then make the cereal pumpkin spice.
The cereal's
flavor.
The pumpkin flavor.
And they just add
the marshmallows.
a pumpkin
the marshmallows
marshmallow.
don't have flavor.
No. They're just sugar clumps.
So.
They're not even real marshmallows. They're just crunchy.
Yeah, there's a word for it, and I forget. It's brought up on the Empty Bowl a lot. But I don't remember what it's called. But yeah, little.
I think they're sugar chalk.
Sugar chalk. Yeah. I think that would work pretty well, actually.
Yeah.
I think they probably have made pumpkin spice Frosted Flakes at some point. It sounds like it.
You could basically make your own pumpkin Lucky Charms because you can buy Lucky Charm marshmallows, right? That's a thing you can do. Yeah. That wasn't a question. I said that like a question, but what I meant to say was you can buy Lucky Charms marshmallows. And a cereal that they didn't review and that we haven't talked about yet is they made this year they have available pumpkin spice Cheerios.
Oh, so you got your pumpkin spice Lucky Charms right there,
and put the marshmallows in it. I just made it. It's made.
Yeah, shoot, man. That's genius. You're brilliant. All right, cool. So yeah, I guess that'll do it to them. I talked about my podcast a little bit. You should go find them. They're on Twitter at Serial Killers PC, or find them on your favorite podcatcher. But let's throw this over to the algorithm and see who these podcasts are good for.
Sure.
All right, we're getting the results now. Cool. It looks like I'm reading right here. Serial Killers is for people who hate pumpkin spice, people who love pumpkin spice, people who want to just chill out and learn about more cereals, and anyone with like a nostalgia for 90s, early 2000s, 80s commercials regarding cereal.
You don't know when that commercial is from, do you, brother?
No idea. He likes it. Mikey likes it. I don't know.
90s, early 2000s, 80s.
The time when people watched commercials. Do you guys remember commercials? I'm not talking ads, because ads are what we get now. Commercials were a thing that existed, and if you're nostalgic for that flavor, check out Serial Killers.
Commercials still happen, just only at the Super Bowl.
Right.
All right. So let me get my my readout here. Savor, this episode of Savor, Pumpkin Jack of All Foods, is recommended for anyone who is curious about the history of pumpkins, anyone who just can't wait to start talking about Halloween stuff now that it's fall time.
Oh, me.
I do want to go over there. I said that like there was a third thing. There's not a third thing. I'm just bad at.
I love that for us. Any witches out there, check it out. I've decided I'm going to start learning witchcraft. I just got my first tarot deck.
Great. Well, then you should listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
I do want to give their information because I forgot to do it earlier. So they are at www.savorpod.com. They're on Twitter and Instagram at SavorPod. And they have a Facebook page, facebook.com/SavorPod. So you can reach them at all of those avenues. One of those words.
Avenues, and give them some revenues.
Yeah.
Radical. Oh no, wait, what's that? The algorithm's printing out another paper. It just says, hello, fathers. I don't know what that means. That's so weird. Huh. That's a weird thing for the algorithm to say. I don't really understand.
That's weird.
It must have been a glitch. We'll have to take a look at some of the programming later.
Definitely. So I do want to thank some people. We should do that, right? Thanking people?
Yes, the thanking part.
We have some thank yous.
It's fall, so it's our Thanksgiving section.
All right. Thank you to all 12 people who listened to our podcast this week.
Y'all are great.
Thank you to some people that mentioned us on Twitter. We've got Lewis Hastings mentioned us on Twitter. Colin Klein mentioned us on Twitter. Alt Stories podcast mentioned us on Twitter. And Monsieur, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong, it's French, and I'm bad at that. But they all mentioned us on Twitter, and thanks so much. We can be found on Twitter at rootofpod. We have a Gmail email account, therootofallpod@gmail, and we also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/rootofpod.
Yeah. So it's super special thanks to my loving girlfriend Ame for letting me use her microphone, and super special thanks to mine and Devin's mom for letting him use her computer.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad, for helping with algorithm sounds, and
special thanks to viewers like you.
Also, thanks Starbucks for coming up with pumpkin spice lattes, I guess. Even though I don't like them, we wouldn't have this podcast episode without Starbucks, so thanks.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys soon, next week, the week after, soon.
One of those days.
All right. Bye, brother. Love you.
Love you, brother.